So grab your favorite holiday beverage, cozy up by the fire, and join us for a sleigh full of joy, laughter, and a sprinkle of nostalgia. Tonight we take a look at some Christmas and New Year's traditions, no matter how enigmatic. Your ticket to the most wonderful time of the year, newsworthy. 2 words and 2 question marks.
He's alive!
Have you checked the children?
Get out!
You have scoured the podcast world and finally found us, Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry, where we delve into all things mysterious, macabre, or out of this world, and decide if they are truly newsworthy. 2 words and 2 question marks.
Why should you work with Ed Locke? A better question is, why wouldn't you work with him? He is proud to support an amazing lender, USA Mortgage.
When you work with them, you can expect a home financing experience that is free of hassles and headaches. They have complete control over your loan due to in-house operations such as processing, underwriting, closing, and funding.
USA Mortgage represents a lot of fantastic things, but they are especially thrilled to partner in several community outreach programs, including Habitat for Humanity, Home Sweet Home, Veterans Community Project, and many, many more. They love going to work every day, which means they love working for you. Ed wants to be your lender for life, so reach out to him today and get the journey started.
If you would like more information, please reach out to Ed Locke at area code 502-680-0953, NMLS 448908, USA Mortgage NMLS 227262. USA Mortgage is an equal housing lender. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions may apply. For licensing information, go to www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you today?
Hello. Doing great.
Doing good.
Wow. I just can't get over how quiet it is. I don't know. We usually do this. It's a little different time of the day that we're doing this today.
Everybody's at work.
Everybody must be at work. The Harley guys across the street are not revving their motorcycles. The dogs are chill, and it's so quiet. I don't know. It's really. I'm gonna use this word, and it'll make people laugh, but bizarre. It's just too quiet.
I thought you were going to say enigmatic.
Oh my gosh, no! If anyone has
Steve's
any
favorite word.
Anybody has any experience with ChatGPT, then you understand why that word is so problematic for me.
The bane of your existence.
It's like that's just what they want to use on everything.
Yeah.
Because, we're a pretty modern program here. We use ChatGPT when we can. I mean, it makes life a little easier.
Yeah, why not?
And why not? So, but yeah, every single freaking time, enigmatic, or I can't even say it.
Enigmatic.
Thank you, Jerry. That's why you're here. Jerry's always like, "Why are you
Because I've
I'm
used the
here?"
word so many times.
Just
from
don't ask
reading
him to
from
pronounce
ChatGPT.
Catholicism.
Yep. That one is a little bit tougher.
We all have our words. What's your word, Brett, that you have such a hard time with?
I stutter over all of my words, so.
There you go. I'm an equal opportunity word abuser.
There you go. Good. Hey, I just want to real quick. Donna, and I won't say her last name, won a free gift card, and Christmas card, and we sent a little swag with you to. That is on the way, Donna. I appreciate
Congrats,
you doing that and reaching out. I had 2 other people respond, but they didn't send me their address. I can't send you anything without an address.
So they still will get it as long as they
You send us an address. Absolutely.
Address. We don't even care whose. It could be someone else's, but we can't throw it in the mail with just a name.
It will not get there with just
If you want to
name.
tell us you live at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, we'll believe you. We'll ship it, but you got to give us an address.
Yeah, and President Biden would be so appreciative of
I'm
that.
sure he would. Yes, he would.
so
Take him a while to
congratulations
figure out
to
what
you,
the hell
Don.
it was. But
Thank you for playing along. That was a fun little game.
did you guys have a good Christmas?
Did have a good Christmas. Did
Good to hear.
indeed. The weirdest thing was the only gift I got for Christmas was a deck of sticky playing cards.
Really?
Yeah,
Sticky, huh?
I'm having a hard time dealing with it.
Oh, I bet so.
I'll tell you what, my Christmas was awesome. So I got a brand new Jeep this year.
Really?
I mean, I was blown away.
I thought I had a good one.
I mean, it's got a button for everything.
Oh my
Really?
goodness.
It even has this one that says rear wiper.
Rear wiper.
Rear wiper. I'm still afraid to try that one out.
Oh my goodness. You guys and your Christmas dad jokes. Yeah.
I don't think
Don't know what to say.
if you hit that button, you should go to the back of your vehicle. I'm just saying, Brett. Oh, mercy.
I will say I did eat too much.
Did you?
Overrated. It's not like it's the first time ever, but certainly I had too much to eat on Christmas. And yesterday, I still a bunch of leftovers and I just couldn't do it. Decided to go to McDonald's. Wasn't that hungry.
That was a mistake.
Really? Well, probably. But I ate a kid's meal when I was there. Still haven't figured out why the mom was so mad at me. At least it wasn't leftovers.
At least you'd have to pay for it.
That always helps.
Oh,
That's probably
man.
the only way I'd eat McDonald's is if it was free.
I don't think I could even then. Like, and truth is, we play that big game, Twilight Imperium 4, and part of my routine is whenever we play that, is I will go get a breakfast sandwich from McDonald's, bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit. Beyond that, there's nothing on their menu that even remotely sounds good to
There
me.
is one thing that I absolutely love, but unfortunately it's a limited item.
If you
Guys,
say
that
don't say
McRib,
it. Oh,
I'm telling you what.
I've never had the McRib.
I know. I mean, when you look at it and when you break it apart, you have no idea what animal, if it even was an animal that it comes from. You have no idea where this stuff comes from. All I know is that stuff tastes amazing. It's the one thing I will go to McDonald's for. But yeah, it's rarely there.
It truly loves going to McDonald's. And the last couple of times we went, like she just got like a couple double cheeseburgers. The cheese was like halfway hanging off the sandwich. It's like you can't even put the cheese on right. And then we went to a Chick-fil-A just opened up in Danville. The people were just super friendly. I mean, it just opened up, so these people were newly trained, super friendly people. Food was great. The service was super quick, even though they had a line that was wrapped around the whole building. You go to McDonald's, and those people are super rude. I mean, this is just in our area, but super
I know,
rude.
it pretty much applies everywhere.
You never get good food there. It's always like halfway thrown together, and
I'll say this: it applies to every Chick-fil-A I've ever been to in any state, anywhere. What your description: great service, great people, and very good food. And it applies to about half the McDonald's I've been to in my life.
yeah.
Another good place that you mentioned earlier today, if you want hamburgers, Cookout. I love their food
Love Cookout.
and absolutely fantastic prices.
Yeah,
So-
phenomenal. Prices.
Great alternative to McDonald's.
Like great
I
ice
don't
cream.
know how the McDonald's
I
and the
don't
Burger Kings of the world
I totally
stay
agree.
open. I just
Totally agree.
don't.
Well, it's not even cheap anymore. It used to be
Exactly.
you go for the dollar menu, it's super affordable. But I mean, the dollar menu is turned into like the $3 menu, and it's really a $10 menu once you get a drink and fries along with that.
That and what did McDonald's always used to do when we were growing up? If you get the kids in, the parents have to eat here too, and they'd have
They
the
got
big
rid of
playhouses. I saw a meme somewhere that said McDonald's has become a 40-year-old depressed person because you go in, it's dark, it's drab, there's no kids. Ronald is gone, nowhere to be seen, and
Yep.
you barely have any interaction anymore. Everything's kiosk here in little old Lawrenceburg. Everything's a kiosk. It just
Totally
I'm
agree.
not.
When I
No,
was
thank you.
when my daughter was little, we were there a lot because
Yeah.
she loved the playground and she would beg, and I would take her there.
Yeah.
That worked. But yeah, they've gotten rid of all the playgrounds, and I kind of understand it.
Yeah,
Some
you
of the
almost have to. now.
stories you heard that the things
Needles
they found in their
and-
ball
Yeah, they're
pits,
gross.
I get it. But yeah, what is their claim to fame now? Why are people going there?
Yeah, it's
It's
certainly
not
not,
the
their
food, it's not the
McNuggets,
service, it's not the price. What's left?
right? It's. I think the fact that people are just conditioned to go there.
Nostalgia.
I guess. I mean, it certainly isn't the food. Even the fries aren't that good anymore. I don't think.
Oh,
And that
they're
was the
all
one claim to
soggy
fame.
and
Yeah, and even if you get them at their peak, they're like number 3 when it comes to chain French fries now. Anyway, Jerry's French fries are a sore point for Jerry. He hates French fries.
Is there any chain that you like French fries?
Here's what I absolutely hate is when you go to a decent restaurant, and the one he's referring to in particular, I specifically ask,
Yeah,
are your fries homemade? Yes. And as soon as we took the first bite, it's like, no, you lied. This is frozen out of a bag.
You can tell. I'm
You can absolutely tell.
I'm with you on this one because I'm a big French fry guy.
Penn Station, hands down, best way to go.
But here's my point. If you-
Zaxby's has phenomenal fries.
Yes, a few do. Here's my point. If you're a McDonald's and you're a Burger King, I don't expect anything but. If you're going to be at what would the average price be at the place we were at? I don't want to slam them, but
it was $15, $20 a plate. Yeah,
and you can't homemake French fries. You got to sell me some frozen crap. No,
Well, and usually when you go to a restaurant like that, like it's always frozen fries. They don't. They don't.
but
really
why
try on
take
the
that
fries.
shortcut?
Yeah.
I love fries that aren't peeled with the skin.
No, I do too.
Take
Wendy's.
a machine and put it,
Oh.
pull a lever.
Yeah.
and you got fries. Drop
Penn
them in some
Station.
oil.
No,
yeah,
Penn Station does have good fries. Yeah.
yeah.
It's not hard to do. I just don't get why so many take this shortcut for that.
Because it's cheap.
So we've decided that unless you're going to borrow a kid's meal at McDonald's, is probably not the place to go, right?
Right. All of that because of McDonald's. Your stupid dad joke. Hey,
We'll
also,
cover that.
for the whole first half of our show, we aired on Podbean was our publisher.
Right.
One of our old school listeners, they have listening levels at Podbean, and
Didn't
you can
know
still
that.
listen to our show at Podbean. I just want to shout out to Double because they have attained scholar level
Very nice.
listening to our show on Podbean. So kudos to you. I hope that you're still with us at Master, which is 930 hours. I can imagine if you are wonderful. If you
Whether she ever makes it to master according to them, she's master according to us.
Yes, absolutely. So congratulations for that too. Now, this week's a little different.
A little
This
bit.
week we're going to talk about some old stuff that happened last week, new stuff that is going to happen next week, and what the meaning of it all is, and kind of wrap it up for the year, I guess. So I'm pretty excited. What are we talking about tonight, Brett?
Yeah. So I'll be talking about Santa Claus. So.
Something that's near and dear to my heart.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So
Or should I say,
if you have any kids that are under 11 that are going to listen to this podcast, probably should wait until they're not in the room. Just
Right.
want to make that disclaimer
Yeah.
first.
We'll give them a few seconds
You've
to
been
get them out of
warned.
the room.
You've been warned. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Spoiler alert.
yeah, press pause. Listen later. All right, you've been warned.
And then Jerry's going to cover
Christmas presents, the tradition, where it come from.
the actual presents, not the being of Christmas, right?
Correct.
Cool. And I'm going to cover tonight, we're going to do some of the traditions involving New Year's, which is something that is near and dear to my heart. So Santa Claus, for a lot of you folks, every year I help Santa by standing in for him and on several occasions, and I truly enjoy it. So I'm very interested to see what you say here tonight, Brett. In fact, why don't you go ahead and get us started? Because I'm gonna.
Yeah. So as everybody knows, that's an adult age at this point. Santa Claus originated from a guy named Nicholas, who eventually became Saint Nicholas. So he was a guy who lived from the year 270 to the year 343. He was an early Christian bishop in modern-day Turkey during the Roman Empire. The earliest attested and most famous incident of his life is when he was said to have rescued 3 girls from being forced into prostitution by dropping a sack of gold coins through the window of their house each night for 3 nights, so their father could pay a dowry for each of them. So that's kind of where that's where the legend of Santa Claus started, was St. Nicholas dropping those gold coins through a window to try and help their father pay for a dowry for each of these girls. What do you guys think? Have you guys ever heard of that?
I've never heard of that.
You've never heard that story?
No. Santa's like an anti-pimp.
Yeah. In a way, yeah. So this was in the early 300s when this happened. So
maybe you should
long time
explain to folks what a dowry is.
Yeah, so a dowry, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since we used those, but basically the father of the girl would have to pay the eligible husband a certain amount of money, animals, whatever, for that person to marry his daughter. So yeah, that's what, if you didn't know, that's what a dowry is. The father-in-law had to pay. Now, of course, we got the father-in-law threatening the dude, saying, "Hey, if you mess with my daughter, I'm gonna get my gun clean." And but yeah, so that's how they used to do it back in the day. So again, he saved these 3 girls from prostitution, which is awesome. I mean, it's a great origin story for Santa Claus, I think. But very different.
Call Zack Snyder.
Very different. Yeah, very different than the story we know as Santa. So other stories tell of Saint Nicholas calming a storm at sea. Apparently, he had saved 3 innocent soldiers from wrongful execution at one point. And another story claimed that he chopped down a tree that was possessed by a demon. So again, he has a bunch of stories that are attached to his name. He was also in prison during the persecution of Diocletian, which was the last of the persecutions of Christians during the Roman Empire, which is where they targeted clergy, demanded a universal sacrifice to pagan gods. The prisons were actually so full of bishops, priests, and deacons at that point that there was no room for the actual criminals, so such as murderers, thieves, and robbers. So they were so full of Catholic clergy that they didn't even have room for the actual criminals. He was released after a session of Constantine, who was the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity. And he also attended the First Council of Nicaea in 325, which was the first ecumenical council to try and attain a general consensus in the church. And it actually resulted in the first uniform Christian doctrine, which is called the Nicene Creed, which I'm Catholic, so we still use that Nicene Creed very regularly today. And a lot of other Christian denominations, they have kind of adapted their doctrine from that, but it all started in 325 with that Nicene Creed. His feast day, or St. Nicholas Day, as it's sometimes called, is celebrated on December 6th, which was the day of his death. He has also been called Nicholas the Wonder Worker due to the many miracles that are attributed to his intercession after he's since passed. So, again, pretty dynamic dude. Not anything like the Santa Claus we know. So, kind of getting into Santa Claus. So, first off, have you guys heard about? I'm sure you've heard that Saint Nicholas was the origin of Santa. Do you guys know anything about him before?
Saint Nick.
Well, the only one of us here that was even alive during that time frame was Jerry, so.
And I must admit that even with my advanced age, and probably due to that, my knowledge has, what little I did know is since long gone.
Oh, man.
One of these days, Jerry's just going to have like a big stick over there and just swat me with it. We're just right across the table, just pow.
I can't wait for us to get some video so we can see just how young Jerry looks.
Right?
They're
Right?
gonna be like, what are they giving this guy a hard time for? He doesn't look a day over 25.
Right? I know. And it'll be a hard lesson for us, Brett. We'll lose that opportunity.
Age is something that's never bothered me. ever.
Really?
Me either.
I just, for a long time, I thought it would, especially after I found out that my dad, and I got this from my mom, apparently when my dad turned 40, he went through a slight depression, felt that he was old or whatever. And I always thought that, there's going to be some day when that happens to me. And I'm 58 years old and happy for every one of those. And age has never bothered me. It's, I've often said getting old sucks, but it's a pretty nice alternative.
No.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll take getting old.
Yeah, absolutely. I would 100% agree with that, especially in light of the last few months.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to get off.
No,
But
yeah.
no, the fact that St. Nicholas was throwing gold coins down a window is all news
Not
to
even
me.
a chimney.
Not even a chimney. Just, hey, here's some money.
So, anyways, now we can kind of start getting into how Santa Claus came to be. So, as I said, he's also known as St. Nicholas. A couple other names for him as Father Christmas and Kris Kringle. So all of that has been developing over, the last 1,800 years, where different legends and, people are telling these stories. And, as we've learned from the telephone game as a kid, these stories change when they're orally told, from person to person. So they've continually changed throughout this time. So the legend of Santa Claus basically, as I said, it originated in the Western Christian culture. Santa Claus, as we know him today, is said to bring gifts on the night of Christmas Eve with the help of his flying reindeer and elves who make the toys in the North Pole. So that's growing up as a kid, that was Santa to me. So there's three figures that he is kind of that kind of combined to create this figure. So Saint Nicholas was the first and original figure. Two other figures branched off from Saint Nicholas. So in the English culture, Father Christmas was a figure that influenced the Santa we know today. And then in the German culture, Belsnickel. And then the Dutch figure was Sinterklaas, which is how that eventually led to the name of Santa Claus. So these figures were merged to create the character we know today. Sinterklaas was anglicized into Santa Claus, which was first used in the U.S. press in 1773, which was before the U.S. was even a country. So a long, long time ago. But he had lost his bishop's apparel at that point. Up until that point, he was clothed as a bishop, just as St. Nicholas was, and was pictured as a thick-bellied Dutch sailor with a pipe and green winter coat. And that was in Washington Irving's book, History of New York, which was published in 1809. So you can already see at this point that he's already starting to get some changes. Irving's interpretation of Santa Claus was part of a broader movement to tone down the increasingly wild Christmas celebrations of the era. This is something I did not know. So some of these Christmas celebrations included aggressive home invasions, substantial premarital sex, leading to shotgun weddings in areas where the Puritans were there, and public displays of sexual deviancy. The celebrations of the era were made by both upper class and Christian purists. So
Wow.
apparently Christmas was a wild time back in the early 1800s.
Sounds like it.
Wasn't that the same time, Jerry, that we were talking about not too many weeks ago that the Puritans during the Salem witch trials would line up all the women and if their breasts were too cold, they were witches. No,
There
these
was
people.
a lot of talk at the time that a lot of women were accused simply because the men wanted to grope them.
Yeah.
A bunch of perverted old white guys that wanted to grope their
Which
tits
is,
because-
like we said, which is weird that all of the people who were accusing them were young girls.
Right.
Yes, right. It turns out that
What about Thelma? Do you think Thelma's? No. Thelma ain't no witch.
No.
But again, don't forget what Brett just said. That old theory kind of goes out the window when the vast majority of the people doing the accusing were young girls themselves.
Right. Crazy.
Bunch of perverted lesbians. I don't know. I shouldn't have said that. I just, who knows where it come from.
Anyways, by the time 1821 rolled around, there was a book that came out. It was called A New Year's Present to the Little Ones from 5 to 12. It was published in New York and contained a poem describing Santa Claus, on a reindeer sleigh, bringing rewards to children. And basically, I have the picture right here. It's just a guy in a big brown hat with a sleigh and a reindeer where he's whipping it. Just one reindeer.
He's
So-
got a red.
That was
Jerry.
That was in 1821.
My goodness.
So
Whip it good.
whip it. So these ideas became more popular after
That whip.
the publication of a poem which was called A Visit from St. Nicholas. We now know it as The Night Before Christmas. That was released December 23rd, 1823. 1845, Kris Kringle was already a common variant of Santa, and a magazine article from 1853 described American Christmas custom to British readers, and it referred to children hanging up stockings for a personage whose name varied at that time in America. In Pennsylvania, they said that he was called Krish Kinnell, but in New York, it was St. Nicholas or Santa Claus. The story of Saint,
We're finally at Santa Claus.
yeah. So the story of Santa living in the North Pole, which I always wondered, how do we get from St. Nicholas to Santa living in the North Pole? Most likely started from a Thomas Nast cartoon image that captioned Santa Clausville NP. And so after that point, there's multiple stories and poems that were written about Santa Claus, living in the North Pole. Mrs. Claus, this was another thing that I thought was interesting because, of course, St. Nicholas was celibate. So Mrs. Claus came into the picture in the mid-19th century and was popularized in 1889 by the poet Catherine Lee Bates in the poem Goody Santa Claus on a Sleigh Ride. So that was the first time Mrs. Claus was really popularized, and then again, it just kind of grew from there. So here's kind of what I thought the majority of this talk was going to be, and it's a very short bit because it's actually not as important as I thought. In the 1930s, a depiction of Santa was used for a Coca-Cola advertisement where Santa is dressed in red and white because those were the colors of the Coca-Cola brand. So despite the belief that Santa Claus was invented by Coca-Cola, which is what I always believed, like I'd always heard that, Santa became a big thing when the Coca-Cola advertisement came out. Well, in fact, they were not even the first soft drink company to use Santa in its advertisement. A company called White Rock Beverages had used a Santa figure in a monochrome advertisement for mineral water in 1915. So, did you guys ever hear that? Oh, Santa got popular after Coca-Cola. Really?
I never heard
Never?
that. Never.
I don't
Wow.
think I'd ever heard that.
That is, that's what I've always heard. It's like,
Wow.
when Santa was popularized in like I knew it was like the 20s or 30s, and it was some advertisement. So when I read this, I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. 1937, Charles W. Howard, who had placed Santa Claus in the department stores and parades, established the Charles W. Howard Santa School, which is still the oldest continuously run Santa school in the world. So they train people to dress up and act like Santa, and send them to department stores and out into the world to, have kids sit on their laps. And
It's such a tough job these days.
I
Some
can imagine.
Some formal training probably wouldn't be bad, to be honest.
But yeah, I know it's like I've never heard of anybody going to a Santa school. But
I'm not going to a Santa school. I've got enough schooling on my picture, but on my plate. But I can see why that would be important today. I mean, let's just face facts. It's kind of awkward, a little weird. We teach kids every day in school, and we teach our children, you stay away from strangers. You don't go sit and then one day a year, it's okay. You're going to go see this stranger and sit in his lap for a picture.
yeah, it is kind of weird.
It's a little strange in today's world.
I have a quick story. So a couple weeks ago, I wasn't on the podcast because we had a Christmas get together with. I wasn't actually getting my back hairs braided, unfortunately, but that's coming next week. But anyways, we had my uncle or my wife's uncle dressed up as Santa Claus, and he handed out presents to my daughters and all my nieces and nephews, and so my oldest daughter's 4, and I was like, there's no way she's not gonna know, because it's not like he has a big beard or anything. He didn't put on a fake beard. He has a white beard, but it's very short. And I was like, he just put on some glasses, the hat, and the clothes, and I was like, no way, she's just gonna find out. I tell you what, she was so excited that Santa was there. I was like, she was like just staring at him. I was like, she's gonna know, and she was like, Daddy, Santa's here. It's like, man, I just couldn't believe it.
Here's the best part, as someone who portrays Jolly O Saint Nick, is when you know the child by name and they come in and you're like, hello, Stanley. I'm glad you're here. And they're like, their eyes get like saucers.
Does that scare them?
No, it cements him.
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's really him. He knows who I am. That is the coolest part about it.
Oh, I can't. And Leia actually saw Santa like a month before, a couple weeks ago, like in the end of November. And of course, the Santa looked different, which is another reason why I was like, oh, she's gonna figure it out. But he was like, hey, what's her name? We told him. He went, and it was exact same reaction as you're describing. It's just like, she's like, Daddy, he knows my name. I was like, of course, it's Santa.
Right, it's crazy.
It's just awesome. But anyways, so since then, since the 1930s and 40s, Santa has been in TV shows, movies. He's really grown into, he's more of a face, in my opinion, he's more of a face of Christmas that we know today than Jesus really is.
Sad but true.
So, yeah, it all started with St. Nicholas and kind of evolved. And like I just said earlier, this reminds me of the game Telephone. It's like we have this one story and it just slowly evolves over time. And, it really was like, there's stories written about him. There was songs written about him. There was, advertisements about him that all kind of built into this one character that we know. And, so I learned a lot that I didn't think I was going to learn. Like I said, I thought that the Santa we know today was originated by Coca-Cola. So.
Wow. Well, that's very interesting. Good to know.
One thing I will mention, you talked about your daughters. My daughter has 2 young boys. One is just a little over 1, so he's a bit too young to understand any of it. Jensen, on the other hand, is 2.5, and he understands. And there is no better threat, if I can say that we have found that works anywhere near the fact of Santa's watching.
Yeah.
You talk about changing a kid's behavior instantly. Now, kids have a short attention span. It's not going to last long, but it will instantly change their behavior.
Oh, yeah.
Santa, I've been good. I've been very good. Furthermore, the audacity to tell the lies to Santa that this kid has done. After some of the worst things I've ever seen him do, and to mention Santa's watching, and suddenly he's telling Santa how good he's been all year.
Yeah.
But there is nothing that will make a kid stop what they're doing and begin to, at least for a short period of time, listen and do what they're told, and Santa's watching.
Yeah, crazy.
They don't want coal.
I got coal this year. One of the people I work with gave me a whole canister full of coal.
Who knows you that well?
Rude.
Rude?
Rude.
I thought that'd be from your family, not from your coworkers.
Oh, man, that hurts. Hurts.
So joking.
Jerry, so
Yes.
we know about Santa now, and Santa brings what?
Santa brings, hopefully, not coal. Hopefully he brings presents. And that's what I'm going to talk about is the traditions of Christmas presents and where that comes from. I've said before, my father was a Baptist minister. I was raised believing that Christmas presents were just a direct result of the 3 wise men coming to visit Jesus and the gifts, the presents that they brought.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I saw you always make fun of me and my memes, but I saw one the other day directly involving that. It showed 2 of the wise men, frankincense and gold, And then it had what was that guy's name? Billy, the guy who the ShamWow guy.
Oh, okay.
And it showed him on the end, and he's like, "But wait, there's myrrh."
Yep.
Sorry.
That was
That's awesome.
what I was raised to believe. And I'd always kind of grew up thinking that, okay, this has just been a tradition ever since then. Presents are given at Christmas because the wise men brought presents.
We,
when
in
Christ
fact,
was born.
tell my kids that. Like, that's
Oh,
what we
wow.
told them this year. It was like, so you're getting presents because Jesus got presents.
Well, I don't think it's incorrect to say that that's where the tradition began.
Yeah.
The truth is, there was a several hundred years, and by that I mean probably 15, 16, 17, 1800 year time period when that was not the case. As a matter of fact, for many, many years, it was considered pagan and was not allowed by most religious groups, strongly forbidden, criminalized. In the beginning of the United States, it was criminalized. We'll get to that a little bit later. Let's start back at the beginning. We're going to talk about Christmas trees as well as presents. Let me start with Christmas trees. With Christmas trees, Germany is credited with starting those. In the 16th century, sources record devout Christians bringing decorated trees into their home. And it was pretty well widespread among German Lutherans by the 18th century, but it was not until about a century later when it began widespread and went around the world. Now, if you want to go back even further, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, the use of evergreen trees, wreaths, and garland to symbolize eternal life was a custom that goes back thousands of years to ancient Egyptians, Chinese, and Hebrews. But it was the trees were not brought indoors. A branch could be brought indoors, a wreath. But as far as the fact of the evergreen symbolizing eternal life, that's been around for a long time. But it didn't translate into the trees being brought inside. That didn't happen for several years later. By the way, it's also widely believed that Martin Luther, the 16th century Protestant reformer, was the first one to add lighted candles to a tree. According to a common version of the story, he was walking home one winter evening and he was looking up at the stars in the sky through some evergreen trees. And he decided to recapture that scene for his family when he erected a tree in the main room and wired on some candles to the branches.
Just don't tell your insurance
Oh,
that
yeah.
you're doing that.
Yeah, please don't do that anymore.
Roman Church would not, they would frown upon that.
We'll get to the safety a little bit later on. Now, most 19th century Americans found Christmas trees to be an oddity. As far as late as the 1840s, Christmas trees were seen as pagan symbols and absolutely not accepted by most Americans. New England's first Puritan leaders viewed Christmas trees and celebrations themselves as unholy. The second governor of the Plymouth colony, William Bradford, wrote that he had tried hard to stamp out pagan mockery of the observance. By 1659, the General Court of Massachusetts enacted a law making any observance of December the 25th a penal offense. People were fined for hanging decorations. So if you hung decorations to celebrate Christmas, you were fined. By 1846, the popular royals, Queen Victoria and her German Prince Albert, were sketched in the Illustrated London News, and they were standing with their children around a Christmas tree. And the tree was decorated with toys, with small gifts, candles, popcorn strings, and they were all hanging from the branches by ribbons and by paper chains. And like the previous royal family, Victoria was very popular with her subjects. And what was done at the court immediately became fashionable, not only in Europe, but also in America as well. And that was when most believed that the Christmas tree had really finally arrived. By the early I'm sorry, did you start to say something?
I was just going to say, I'm surprised that we didn't do it the opposite like we do everything else according to England. You know, we drive on the right side because they drive on the left. Our horses race clockwise because there's race counterclockwise.
What would have been the opposite of that?
I
Put it
have-
outdoors or something instead of indoors.
I don't know. We're not using a tree. We're going to use a bush, the Christmas
Yeah.
A
bush,
shrubbery.
a shrubbery.
But what you described has never applied to fashion.
That's true.
from the very beginning, fashion, we got it mainly from Britain and also from France. By the 1890s, Christmas ornaments were arriving from Germany, and Christmas tree popularity was on a huge rise in the United States. One thing of note is, as it's true with so many other things, Europeans at the time, and even to some degree still today, have much smaller trees. They average around 4 feet in height, where Americans like their trees to extend from floor to ceiling. So the height of the American tree is basically dependent upon the size of your rooms and how big of a tree you can fit in there. That's
Typical
so true.
American.
It is. From look at the size of houses to the size of cars, all of it. It's still true today in most things. Most famous Christmas tree in the world. What would you guys say it is?
New York's.
Which one? Which one? There's one in
Is
particular.
it Central Park or in Manhattan? I don't know.
Rockefeller Center.
Yeah, there you go.
It's the 80-foot Norway spruce is placed in mid-November. It's lit up in a public ceremony, which is why it's so popular. It's on TV every year when they light it. And a public ceremony on the Wednesday following Thanksgiving. The Rockefeller Center Christmas tree dates back to the Depression era. The first one was put up in 1931, and it was a small unadorned tree that was put up in the center of the construction area by some construction workers. It was unadorned. They didn't put anything on it.
Oh.
2 years later, they come back, and another tree was placed there. This time it had lights, nothing else, and that was the beginning of the Rockefeller Center tree. These days, the giant Rockefeller Center tree is lit with over 50,000 Christmas lights and a Swarovski crystal star. Again, we mentioned that it's normally an 80-foot tree. That tallest one ever was a 100-foot tree that was displayed in 1999.
Well, so the tallest one was in 1999.
The tallest one ever there at Rockefeller Center was for that year, they didn't have the normal typical 80-foot. They had a 100-foot.
Wow.
They just plant a tree instead of keep killing all these trees every year.
Yeah.
By this time, they would have already grown to 80 feet.
You could have saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably millions of dollars at that point.
I know, right? You wouldn't even have to undecorate; just unplug it for the year.
You're cutting down this, hundreds and hundreds of years old tree.
Right? Sorry. That's one of the things, I like natural stuff. I like natural cotton, natural linen. I like natural food for the most part.
So you like natural Christmas trees?
The Christmas trees, however, is one thing that I absolutely, Christmas trees and gas grills. I argue with people all the time about that. There's no need to not have a fake Christmas tree. How easy is that? Like, at the end of the year, when I'm done with this, I'm going to take it as is upstairs and put it in the attic. I don't have to unwrap it. I don't have to I just take it and put it up there. And I haven't killed 100 evergreen trees in my lifetime for this habit. Also, I don't like charcoal. I love the flavor, but gas grills are so much more convenient.
It's so much easier. Yeah.
Anyway, but
I don't think the food tastes as good.
No,
flat honest with you.
absolutely.
I'll
You're
take
right.
charcoal anytime. Now, am I willing to do it? No. The only time that I use a charcoal grill is when I go to a public park
campground
There's
or
no
something. Right.
alternative, and I'll certainly use it there. And at the end of the meal, I'm usually thinking that was pretty freaking good. Well, I want to do this more often. So
And
I like
then you
the
realize
taste.
how freaking much work it is.
It's so labor intensive, so time consuming.
So just turn a knob.
Right.
and 5 minutes later, it's 400 degrees.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about trying to balance the temp and light some more briquettes.
I just feel
Totally
the
agree.
same way about Christmas trees.
There's another huge reason that
What's
you
that?
haven't mentioned for the artificial. So much safer.
Oh, yeah.
I read actually that real trees are 3 times more likely to be involved in a Christmas tree fire.
Really?
Now, again, you can, to a huge degree, get rid of that if you do one simple thing, which is
Keep it in water.
keep it watered.
Yeah.
Keep it watered. You have to keep it watered. So many people don't. And over the years, real Christmas trees have been the source of a ton of fires. Speaking of which, even to today, approximately 25% of Christmas tree fires are not the result of real versus artificial. It's the result of either electrical problems or heat sources being placed too close.
Huh.
So please do watch, before you put your lights up, check them, test them, make sure that you, at least to the best of your ability, try to figure out that, make sure that there's not a electrical shortage in it. If you've got heaters, electrical heaters, that type of thing, keep it some distance away. You got freaking cats, dogs, make sure that they're not going to knock the tree 5 feet over into
Right.
the heat source. Back to Christmas presents. I did most of my preparation on the Christmas trees. But as far as presents are concerned, there is little evidence that from the time of Christ until 70, 80 years ago that giving Christmas presents was a thing,
Wow.
period. It doesn't matter, religious, pagan, it just was not a thing. And everything that I have read is that this wasn't brought about when we started bringing up Christmas presents. This wasn't due to church. This was due to the commercialization and stores trying to sell merchandise.
Oh yeah.
They've done a fantastic
They
job
have.
of that.
They have
I just
done
remember
that.
your all's episode last year where you guys talked about Christmas and like the amount of money
Yes.
Yes.
Americans spend on
It's
I thought about it this Christmas, just like, as my kids were opening all these presents, like half of these they're not ever gonna play with. And it's like they're just gonna end up sitting in the corner for the next couple of years until I'm like, man, because even Jerry had it right, man. We just waste so much money on I don't wanna
Another thing that bothers me even more than
no, we
what
like
you
hearing
said,
that we're right.
if you're rich and you can afford it, more power to you.
Yeah.
But when you look up the numbers of how much debt is incurred at Christmas time for Christmas,
Yeah.
that is absolutely sad.
Yeah.
Especially, we've alluded to the fact of, we all three wish that we could get back to to where Christmas was more directly related to its origins, Christ, the birth of Christ. But we've gone so far from that. And especially when you start looking at the financial hardships that so many families encounter at Christmas time and take, in many cases, years to pay off. It's truly
I
sad.
don't.
So
I don't,
make sure you
I
don't do
refuse
that.
to do that anymore.
It's not smart.
I have a budget. When I hit that budget, I'm done. Sorry. And this year, because of the sickness, that budget was a lot smaller. But you know what? We didn't have any less of a Christmas.
Absolutely.
right.
We had less gifts. We didn't have less of a Christmas.
Yep. Because that's not what it's about.
Right.
Never was about even at the birth of Christ. It wasn't about the gold and the frankincense. And according to, what was his name?
Oh gosh, what was
It wasn't
his
about
name?
the myrrh either.
He's the one that passed away.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about. I just can't think of his name. But
The Shamwell guy.
yeah, it was never about the presents. So good thing to keep in mind.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to cover some things this year. And one of the things that I'm going to cover, first of all, New Year's resolutions and New Year's starts. And all of this starts all the way back. Like you guys, this has its actual historical roots some 4,000 years ago, all the way back to the ancient Babylonians. That they would use the new lunar cycle
And
as
you said that was like Brett and I?
yeah.
We go back that far? Okay.
No,
Just making
like,
sure.
like your topics went
Oh,
back
okay.
that far. Not y'all, just not Brett especially. Maybe you. But they would have, and their time of the year was not in January. It was sometime mid-March when crops were planted. They was all done on a crop cycle. They'd have a big 12-day religious festival known as a Q2. I'm probably butchering that, and I apologize in advance. But that would be the time if they were having a new king, that the new king would be crowned. That they used that time for propagation, because that helped not only with crops, that gave new groups of people to help with those crops and grow, and it was a very big point for them. And again, that started way back 4,000 years ago. Pretty neat stuff. Do you guys do New Year's resolutions?
I used to. I guess now it's almost like if I'm doing it as a New Year's resolution, I've already come up with it beforehand, and I'm just like, I'll just wait until New Year's to start that up. And it's like, well, why don't I just go ahead and start that now?
Well, I'm a very optimistic person, and I'm a very planned person. So for the most part, sometimes it's weird. My brain works weird ways, but I am a big New Year's resolution person. Some of the biggest changes in my life have happened because of New Year's resolutions. Didn't necessarily happen at New Year's, but it gave me the opportunity to set the goal for the year.
Yeah.
You
And
quit smoking, didn't you?
I quit smoking because of a New Year's
That's what I thought.
resolution. It took me till like August, but we got it done in that year. When I had a divorce once upon a time, I decided I'm going to get rid of all the drama in my life. Took a year to do that. You don't just, some things can't just happen
Yeah.
day of, but it is a great opportunity that I use. And that's what this is like one of my most important planning weeks. I got, as you can ask Jerry, and you'll see a video coming up soon, hopefully. I have notebooks everywhere that I write lists in, and those lists, and I go through and I scratch them out and I break new lists. This is when I'm writing all those lists for the year.
I will say I do make lists, and I guess I said I don't do new. I use like the season of Lent as like my New Year's.
Sure.
It's like that's when I'm gonna like try and push myself and hopefully develop new habits. But
Well, I think you've been very successful. You're not on social media at all.
Yeah.
That's a big deal in today's world.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't say that. I mean, but I just always use this week. And first of all, I believe firmly that every day you wake up, that God gives you another day, can be a day that you can change and be better. Maybe it's just a little change. Okay. Yesterday, I had an entire box of Twinkies. Today, only half a box. Yesterday, I drank a 12-pack of beer. Today, I'm only drinking 9. Whatever the case is, as you can tell where my brain is already focused, I had, and the only reason I bring this up is because we're going to cover New Year's resolutions as part of this, but I have a lot of times, and I was over lunch today, I was telling you guys how my brain works a little bit about how it clicks on these certain things. My number one resolution this year is because of a saying that I heard that I can't get out of my head. And I can't sit here and tell you who I can attribute this quote to, but it's a famous person. I almost want to say it's Matthew McConaughey. I wouldn't swear to that, but it's weird and it's brilliant. And given the last few months of this year and how this has transpired, the quote is this, and I'm going to try not to butcher it. The quote is, if you don't eat your food as medicine, you will eat your medicine as food. Okay? And basically, it's a way of, another way of just saying you have to eat better. Doesn't mean you can't have a hot dog. Just means you can't have 12 hot dogs in a week. It is, as I've been through this battle the last few months, the number of medications that I have to take on a daily basis has ticked up. And I'm at a level that I don't want to be at the end of this year. And we were talking about the kinds of foods that our government allows us to have here and the amounts of food. You can go to McDonald's and buy half a drum of, orange cola for $1.20. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so that's my big resolution this year. I want to change. We all say, oh, I'm going to lose 20 pounds or I'm not going to do that. I just want to eat healthier, whatever that looks like, and that means less processed stuff, more whole foods. Does it mean I'm not going to have a turkey sandwich? No, I love bread. Bread's probably my Achilles heel. Pizza, we talked about. Doesn't mean it can't be a healthier version of pizza.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's my big New Year's resolution. I just want to be healthier next year at this time than I am right now. So Anywho.
By the way, that quote originally came from Hippocrates, goes back a little further than Matthew.
Oh, Hippocrates. I'm glad you looked that up.
McConaughey may have said it though. And
Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food was the original quote.
That makes good sense. And I heard it a little different. And I think
It's changed to what you exactly what you said.
but the meaning doesn't change, you know. I harken back because my brain sticks on things. Jerry knows this. It drives him nuts, especially when it comes to food. But my brain will catch on to something and it just will not let it go. And I had a great aunt, God love her. I miss her every day. But when she passed away, she was on 14 different medicines, 4 times a day. She had a pill to speed up her heart and a pill to slow it back down. And then she had, mood controls, and I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a slave to a pill bottle.
Yeah. So once you get on one medication, then you have to have another medication to counteract the side effects of that other medication. And it's just never ending. And
it's the more you take, the more dangerous it becomes.
Yeah.
I had my thyroid removed because of the cancer. I will always, for the rest of my life, be on a thyroid medicine. There's no way around it, because if you don't,
right,
your pituitary gland creates this stuff that makes you become a cancer factory. So I will always be on that one. But there's no reason there's nothing that I can't. Every other medicine I'm on, I can control the fact that I'm on it just by controlling what goes in my mouth.
Food and exercise will fix the majority of our problems.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and if you come down to those two, the truth is you can never outwork your diet.
Never. Yeah.
Never outwork your diet.
Oh, my gosh. If you look at, how many burpees you need to do to burn 100 calories, I just want somebody to watch that video and then do some burpees and see how hard that is.
Yeah, you can never outwork your diet.
Ever.
So, that's my mindset going into this. And I make it a big deal here because it's a big deal in my mind. And I apologize to the listeners, but that's how I psych myself up.
It's a big deal for everybody. I mean, because
it really is.
And I go to the gym very frequently, pretty much every day, and I'm dreading January because you get the big wave, and it's awesome that people are going to the gym, but I know that come February, they're not going to be there anymore.
Right.
But it's just like that huge wave of people and I've been a part of that wave. It's not like I'm shunning those people, because I've been in that situation where I'm like, oh, this, I'm gonna start now, then a month later I'm not doing it anymore, and I've gotten to a point where I'm frequent now, which is awesome. But
I would like to be getting to the gym by March.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah,
I think it starts in my kitchen.
It does, and it's a lifestyle change. People don't understand that, it's not like it's not a quick fix either. You're not just going to be like,
not.
oh, and I'm going to give up Twinkies for this month and I'm going to lose 100 pounds. Well, it's not going to work like that. You have to be consistent. You have to say, I'm not going to eat Twinkies for the rest of my life. I'm cutting all this extra sugar, all this extra soft drinks. I'm not going to get the 64-ounce soft drink at the gas station.
I want, and Jerry and I have covered this before we switched formats. We covered the dangers of sugar.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I would want everybody who's listening now to go back and listen to that episode. Sugar, even natural sugar, is a drug. And it's a drug that companies have used against you with impunity. They want you addicted to sugar because it's cheap for them. The side effects are catastrophic for you. And they want you hooked on this sugar.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Keeps you buying their...
Absolutely.
And for somebody who's so used to sugar, like soft drinks and, candy and Twinkies and all that, it's hard for them to go from... You can't just go from that to, I'm just going to eat chicken and broccoli for every meal. You can't do that. It's not sustainable.
No.
There's this dude, Jeff Cavalier. He's like a, workout guy on YouTube. But he's like, just make a healthier choice. Like, instead of, your sugary cereal... You don't have to go to bland oatmeal. You could do like the peaches and cream oatmeal which has sugar.
Yeah.
It tastes better than regular oatmeal, but it's healthier than the sugary cereal.
Way healthier.
You just make those small, healthier choices, and over time, you're going to be able to eat that oatmeal. That's going to be
kind of like what he was saying earlier. Had a 12-pack yesterday. Today, my limit's 9. Tomorrow, 6.
Yeah. I remember you saying that you'd like, you'd get those sugar cravings late at night. You'd just get a glass of milk. Like, I kind of like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, because I would always get sugar cravings at night. And you actually taught me something, Jerry. Because like now I'll get.
Now he's never going to leave. He's got to get the
if I
big
get
head.
seriously, ever since I heard that episode, this is what I do. So every time I get sugar cravings at night, every night, I always get a spoonful full of peanut butter and a half glass of milk, and it gets rid of it. So, anyways.
So anyway, I just bring that up to say if you are a resolution person like me, that started 4,000 years ago with the Babylonians. Congratulations, you're in good company. Every generation for 4,000 years have done that. What are some of the other things that we do on New Year's Eve? How about smooching your sweetie? Everybody likes to smooch their sweetie. Jerry has a head-sized cutout of me up there that at his house that I'm sure has his lip prints all over.
Oh, but of course.
But puckering up at the stroke of midnight is a tradition with more ancient roots. Many cultures considered the transition from the warm to the cold seasons to be an intensely vulnerable time, and even when evil spirits could run amok. So we kissed our sweetie to help sane those spirits away, to show that we were two against whatever we were together against whatever came our way. So it was thought to bring good luck, and you want to be closest to the people that support you throughout the year, which is again why, Jerry, you have a cutout of me in your house.
But of course. I mean, who wouldn't?
I mean, right. Maybe we should do some more cutouts and send those out.
Well, those are
The address
worth too much. We have to sell those.
What else do we do? We pop champagne, bubbly. Popping champagne at the stroke of midnight is pretty much a mainstay in New York, whether it's a swanky party or an at-home celebration. Overindulgence and excess are the hallmarks of most New Year's celebrations around the week because you're getting it out of your system. Basically, despite its French name, champagne is actually was created all the way back in England in the 1500s. And if you might guess, the only purpose of that was somebody wanted to sell more champagne. So advertising campaigns, and that's what that was. It has its roots in a Christian ritual of consuming wine during the Eucharist as the blood of Christ. That quickly gave way to the bubbly because it was more fun.
Really?
Yeah. Which I
That's
don't.
interesting.
The only way I like champagne is mixed with orange juice. I love a good mimosa, but
I'm the same way. I'm not a big champagne guy.
I'm not a huge champagne guy. But you give me a mimosa, I'm good for about 20 of those.
I totally agree with you guys, but I will say this. I've never had good champagne. I've had cheap stuff, so
That's a good
very
point.
well could be that I've just not had
It's all shit.
You've had some good
Yeah.
stuff? Okay.
Yeah,
I've not.
I had some on the last cruise. It was the Dom Perignon.
Perignon.
Yeah, it was just as crappy as the cheap stuff you could buy at Walmart. I
I'll
wasn't
stick for my
impressed. The brute. It wasn't a whole about dime's worth of difference between the two, if you ask me.
There's gonna be some champagne aficionado like emailing in saying
Oh, I'm sure.
you're,
Well,
you're dead
listen.
wrong.
And when we first launched into cold sweet reds, man, it wasn't 2 weeks then the New York Times were following suit saying this is probably the way to drink it, to be honest. So I
Even-
remember that story.
Yep. Even they were listening.
So you're probably right. We'll probably get, if you're a champagne aficionado, please tell us why we're wrong, as all champagne pretty well sucks unless it's mixed with orange juice. So the song, and I'm going to butcher this, Auld Lang Syne. That's the song that everybody sings for New Year's. That's actually a Scottish poem It was recorded on paper officially in 1788 by Robert Burns. And now everyone sings it. I don't even like the song. There's not a lot about the New Year's Times resolution or the New York Times and that whole. I want to go. Have you ever wanted to go?
Absolutely not.
Really?
Have you seen the amount of people there?
I just want to go one time.
Zero desire.
I
to
get enough of it.
see.
The TV is good enough for me. I like seeing the ball
Yes.
drop. That's cool.
Zero
Well, actually,
desire.
it might be influenced. I know somebody who's been, and they said it was miserable.
I bet it's miserable. First of all, it's usually the worst weather. It's
Yeah.
New York City, so if it's
If you want a
it's
decent
already
spot,
cold.
you're out there for
Oh,
hours and
Oh,
hours
yeah.
and hours and hours.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I just think it'd be a neat bucket list item to go do. Speaking of going to do things, don't let me forget we got some pretty cool announcements later. But I think that would be such a cool thing just to experience one time. Now, it will never happen for me. We are always in Nashville or just outside of Nashville for New Year's Eve. That's just the way our family does
Much
things.
better place to be.
And Nashville is like the secondary mecca in the United States now. I mean, they got the big guitar music note. Is it a guitar or a music note? I don't remember because I'm usually well past caring at that point. And it's not my fault. It's not my fault. No. My wonderful mother and father-in-law make it a point that I don't have a choice whether I'm going to have a good time or not.
We all remember the wine story.
Yes, it was all her fault. Dropping the ball. Don't let me drop the ball here. Dropping the ball at the stroke of midnight from Times Square. That's a big deal. Cities all over the world have picked this up. Again, just like Nashville, they join in 1 hour after the ball drops in England or in New York. Sorry. The first time this ever happened was in Portsmouth, England. Made the first ball drop in 1829. In 1845, Washington, D.C. had one installed as well. By 1904, the big ball was present when revelers began partying in Times Square. But the first version of the ball, a wooden and iron orb, was adorned with 125-watt light bulbs. That's it. Can you imagine how small that looked? Anyway, they were attempting to find an alternative to fireworks because fireworks were banned at the time by the
interesting.
police. Yeah, so that's why they got the chief electrician to conceive a sparky alternative, and the ball was born. Since the first ball dropped, there have actually been 7 balls at the Times Square Alliance. The current ball weighs 6 tons, is 12 feet in diameter, and gets its bling from 2,688 crystal triangles and 32,256 LED lights. So we went from 20 or 125 watt light bulbs to 32,200 LEDs.
As America always says, bigger is better.
Bigger is better. Balls aren't the only thing that drop on New Year's Eve. Port Clinton, Ohio residents watch a 600-pound walleye replica fall. Boise, Idaho, famous for its potatoes, drops the Glow-tato. And, of course, the musical ampersand, I think, is what falls in Nashville. I think that's what it is. So we talked about resolutions. We talked about the balls. Fireworks are another thing. Do we ever just need a reason to make things go boom? As a pet owner, the answer is yes. Stop lighting off fireworks for everything. One time a year, for maybe one weekend a year, 4th of July, light them up. But then after that, stop.
I just noticed that we had fireworks at the Walmart. I was like, what is the fireworks for? And yeah, it never dawned on me until just now. It was for New Year's.
So we got some pretty weird superstitions too, and we got to wrap this up. I pushed us way longer than I wanted to. So there's some things that you're supposed to eat and some things you're not supposed to eat. Chickens are one of the things we're not supposed to eat. Do you know why?
No idea.
Because chickens scratch the earth backwards, meaning they go backwards. If you eat them on New Year's Eve, you're sending your life backwards instead of forward. Bizarre. Let's see. Fish and pork always move forward, so that's why you're supposed to eat fish or pork.
Buzzards go forward. I'm not eating that.
What?
Buzzards go forward, but I'm not eating that.
I'm just saying. You're supposed to, if you grow wine grapes, you're supposed to reserve some of those for the next year, kind of like a wedding cake. I don't know. That sounds like a weird thing to do, but whatever. I was going to say, basically, and just to cut short, most of the traditions, whether it's hopping off on one foot or eating leftover grapes or eating pork instead of chicken, it's all about trying to make yourself more money aware for the next year. That's what most of it comes down to. As you spend a blooming fortune on alcohol and all the things to party with, that makes great sense to me. But anywho, that's some of the. Did we miss your favorite? I guess the question is, did we leave out your favorite tradition? Some people eat black-eyed peas, which are actual, like, I don't know, gross, or cabbage, corned beef.
My wife's family does black-eyed peas and cabbage every New Year's.
See, I won't eat cabbage on a regular day. I'm not going to eat it unless it's coleslaw. That's the only way I'm eating cabbage. You cook it, it's nasty. And my wife's family also does the black-eyed peas, and everybody, and I try to have one just to appease everybody, but just nasty.
I actually like them.
They're not that bad.
I like them.
No, they're terrible.
But I mean, I've never been into the tradition of eating certain foods on New Year's Eve. So
Me either.
I eat
I will
whatever.
probably still eat chicken.
Yeah,
I eat chicken pretty much every day.
It's like one of those things that if you tell me I can't have something, that's when I want that something,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
If you were to tell me, if you said I could have pizza every day the rest of my life, I probably wouldn't eat pizza nearly as much. It's weird. But if you tell me I can't, I'm going to have it for breakfast. I'm going to have it for midday snack. It's just the way my mind works. So, back to some, if we've left out your favorite wonderful tradition, Jerry, where can they email us and tell us where we left out?
Newsworthy with StephenJerry@gmail.com.
So, as far as Santa and presents and New Year's, is this something that we think is newsworthy? I'll start with you, Brent.
I feel like it, like especially with Santa and presents, and really, I feel like it gets a lot of news. I'm not sure. I think that the New Year's resolutions, I think that, like you said, there's a good reason behind it. So I think that it's good to pass on those things. I think presents and Santa have their place as well. I'm not saying, I kind of have like I think that we have enough news as like if just stay the way it is. If that makes sense. Because I think we get a lot of it already.
All right, Jerry?
I wish and hope that we could get it, that we could see the day when it's more centered on what it should be, which is Christ. And from that hope, I would say more.
Absolutely. See, took the words right out of my mouth. And maybe it's just age. Maybe as I get older and I watch my children and my grandchildren grow, I want them to be more centered. I want them to be more knowledgeable about where it comes from. Was it last week you were asking about how we felt, about Santa?
Yeah, because me and my wife
passing on the tradition.
kind of talked about that. Yeah.
And as a young child, there's nothing more magic. I've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen
Yeah.
these kids, like, not this last year, it was set up. This year was set up a little different. Last year, I could watch the kids get out of the car and how excited they were to run up and see Santa.
Bless
Excuse
you.
me, sorry. I could see them get out of the car and running to get in line to see Santa and how excited they were and how awesome that was. But as we age, we definitely want that to switch.
Yep.
You know, we want that move, and I think that that's a parent's responsibility. I think that that's a a good parent will make that switch, and you by far, I'm not worried about it at all. But I definitely think that if we can continue to help make that switch a little bit, then I'll definitely get 2 thumbs up. Absolutely. More news. Newsworthy. Hey.
I agree.
So, newsworthy, by the way, this year, and I think Jerry's excited and Brett's excited. We have plans, and nothing's in stone yet, but we have plans that we're going to be live and on location in at least 2 festivals this year, and maybe more. That's a possibility as they come available. We'll be letting those dates and times. So if you like the show and you want to be a part of that live and you just want to come up and see how old Jerry really is, you can do that.
Yep.
We'll be announcing those as we get confirmation. We don't want to announce it and then not be able to go, but there'll be a lot of heads up because we want to advertise the places we're going to be. But pretty exciting stuff. Also, there's another kind of exciting thing we're going to start trying to work on next week. Maybe in the next few weeks it'll happen. We're going to keep that one close to the vest until it happens. But yeah, what do you think, Jerry? Final thoughts?
I love it all. Final thought was this. You said you're not a big fan of the Black Eyed Peas one, maybe.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Poppin' John?
Nope.
Now, that's a very, very traditional New Year's dish made with black eyed peas, rice, some meat. I want to give you a good recipe for that. Do me a favor, just
Okay.
try it. And you're usually very good at trying. So,
Okay.
Poppin' John. I'll even include a link
Okay.
to
Sounds
the
good.
podcast
Poppin'
as well.
John.
Hoppin' John. Woohoo.
Man, that episode is really interesting. And if you'll stick around for us for just a few commercials, we have another great story to tell you.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. When it comes to buying a home, the process can be overwhelming and confusing. With so many options, it can be hard to know where to start. That's why it's important to work with a certified mortgage loan originator. I have the knowledge and expertise to guide you through the process and find the best mortgage option for you. I will work with you every step of the way to ensure that you are getting the best deal possible. So if you're looking to purchase or refinance, please reach out to me at 502-680-0953. So don't take on the stress of buying a home alone. Work with me and I will make your dream a reality. Trust the professionals and make your home buying experience a positive one. MLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, MLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is equal housing opportunity.
If you want us to review or rate your product on air, if you have suggestions for new episodes, awesome ghost stories, or anything else, please reach out to us. Our email address is newsworthyWithSteveandJerry@gmail.com. Our text number is area code 540-709-1318.
And now, back to the story.
The historic Stanley Hotel has sold for $475 million. And yes, the ghosts were included in the deal. The historic Stanley Hotel, which is located in Estes Park, Colorado, is being sold to a nonprofit that will be tasked to build 58 new apartments as well as a new film center, and whose mission will be to operate the hotel as a cultural resource. The $475 million deal is something of a buyout for the hotel's present caretaker, John Cullen, who owns Grand Heritage Hotel Group, which includes the historic hotel. The hotel was thrust into the national spotlight back in the 1980 horror film The Shining, which was based on a Stephen King novel of the same name. King came up with the plot for the novel while staying at the hotel in 1974. The Stanley Film Center that'll be built at the hotel will not only be a place to watch and celebrate film, particularly those in the horror genre, but a creative space for making films, art, and literature, and material will be made available to the Grand Heritage Hotel Group's website. The Stanley Film Center will cater to a wide audience, including thousands of genre fans, industry leaders, aspiring artists, and students from around the globe. The Stanley Film Center will also cater to a broad demographic, offering family-friendly activities and exhibits throughout the afternoon and late-night blood and gore for older folks and mature audiences that run late into the night. So once again, the old Stanley Hotel has sold for $475 million. And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.